This show is all about interviewing interesting people and learning. The TV show, The Biggest Loser, was one of the most watched television shows in America. A group of overweight people, many of them unhappy, would compete to lose weight. The first season came out in 2004, and there would be 18 seasons. It is back in the spotlight right now because Netflix just came out with a docuseries called Fit for TV, The Reality of the Biggest Loser. Tracey Lane, whose name was Tracey Yukich at the time, was an important part of season 8 of The Biggest Loser, and that was back in 2009. Tracey is featured in the Netflix docuseries, and I watched The Biggest Loser back in its heyday. I've also watched the docuseries, and I wanted to have Tracey on this program because I know that you're gonna learn a lot, I'm gonna learn a lot. So Tracey, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so walk me back to when you decided to apply to be on the show. What was the moment for you that you said, I need to get on that show and I'm going to apply?
I was a fan of the show. So I watched Eating Ice Cream in my living room. I usually DVR'd it so I could watch it later after my children were asleep. So I saw the rigorous exercise, I saw the transformations, and it was inspiring to me. And on a Saturday night, I was watching, actually I was watching Saturday Night Live. I'm a Saturday Night Live junkie. And after that was on, a commercial came on, and it was Allison Sweeney. And she's like, do you want to be on The Biggest Loser? Do you want to transform your life? You should apply. And it just happened to be the very next day in Dallas. And so I went to bed not able to sleep that night because I kept thinking about it. And then the next morning, it was Sunday morning, we were going to go to church. And instead of going to church, I got dropped off with thousands of people in Dallas at a restaurant, and I went and tried out for the show, and that's how it all started.
So that was like an actual casting call that you just showed up. So you didn't have to do like a video that some other people did in previous seasons.
No, I just showed up. It was an in-person casting call. You had to download an application offline. So I downloaded the application. I filled it out. The day that I went for the casting call, it was raining cats and dogs. I mean, it was just raining so bad in Dallas. And you know anything about Dallas weather, it's extremely unpredictable. So you know those big rainstorms that come through there. And I was standing in the rain. I looked like a wet dog, and you're trying to look your best because you want to be on a television show and you want them to pick you. And there was so many people there waiting for the same opportunity and wanting the same opportunity. And we ate donuts and we hung out, and I met so many wonderful people. People still that message me on Facebook like, hey, I met you at the casting call. And they actually closed the door and closed the line because there were so many people in Dallas wanting to try out for the show. Wow. And so they cut it off, and I never got to go inside until I did. And I sat down next to a tree and I started sobbing because I thought, like, wow, I just missed my opportunity because there's so many people here, and what do I do now? I felt kind of defeated. And DJ Feldman was a casting member, you know, from The Biggest Loser, and he saw me, and he just out of nowhere, he just came and he looked down at me and said, do you want to come inside? And I just looked up at him and I said, yes. And wow. That was it.
Wow. So you think because you broke down, you were crying, that he recognized that you were just so...
I was not the only one crying. There were a ton of people crying. Wow. I don't know why I was picked that day. I really don't. I couldn't even tell you why. But he's still my friend today. We still remember that same story, you know, from that day. And he's like, I remember everybody. He goes, I really remember you.
Wow.
I don't know why you picked me. There was a lot of people there. We were all crying. We were sad. And I got to go inside. And, you know, that season that I was picked was for, they called me back. When you go in for a casting call, you sit at like a round table. And then I don't even know what I said, but they asked you questions. And before I left, they said, consider this your callback. I was like, wow. So a lot of people, they told you, okay, we'll call you back. We'll let you know. And they said, consider this your callback. Can you come back tomorrow and do an on-camera interview? And I was like, sure. So that was Monday. I went back for an on-camera interview. And then they kept calling me back. But the season that they were casting for were for couples. And I didn't have anybody to go with. I tried to find someone to go with. I asked my godmother. I asked a friend of mine. but I really didn't have anybody to go with me. And so I was passed over that season, but then they called me back for singles, and so I got to go again.
Wow. So at that point, and I know you've been very open about, there were some issues in your marriage and whatnot. Did you reveal that during kind of the process? Did they understand like what was going in your life that you were just so desperate to get on this show?
Yeah. No, I did not. I did not divulge any information about what was going on in my life on camera. Even while I was on The Biggest Loser. I didn't even reveal it to my castmates on the show. I felt deeply ashamed of that. And I also didn't want to embarrass my family, because I also knew that, like, what if I did change me? Because at the time I didn't realize that it really didn't have anything to do with me. And it took some growing to make that realization, that kind of aha moment, like, oh, this actually has nothing to do with me. But at the time I really did think it was my fault. So I didn't tell anybody. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I held it inside. It was funny you asked me that question, because even today a news article came out from some other publication that talked about, like, oh, they didn't support her efforts for what was going on at home. Like, you should have called me for a report on that, because no one knew, because I didn't talk about it. Nobody.
Wow. And so really you didn't reveal it until you were actually on the show?
I didn't reveal it till I was in the documentary.
Oh, wow. Really?
I've never publicly talked about the struggles I was having at home. I've never talked about that ever.
Wow.
It's been, I mean, if you know me and you're my friend, then of course you know that I went through a divorce and that I ended up making a lot of changes at home. But it wasn't until I was on the documentary. And even while I was on the documentary, I just feel like that space was reserved for when I was ready to share. And still get emotional talking about it, because it was hard.
Yeah,
it was really hard. I mean, even I was on the show, and then, like, I had this really bad accident and so many things happened, and then I had to go home and I had to figure out my life, and then figuring out that life meant that I had to change everything about it.
Yeah. It was like, it was what you knew, at the time.
Yeah, of course. And even when, I'm on the show and I'm like, I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to lose this weight. This is going to fix my marriage. So I was really hopeful as well when I got home. So, and then realizing that each week, it's like each week I was there, I kept having these revelations about my life and things that I wanted for myself.
And so, there's always kind of it would kind of come up a little bit, but I mean, for people who were not alive, or maybe they just weren't aware, or they weren't watching the show at the time, I mean, it was so big. I mean, it was just massive. And why do you think so many people wanted to go on it? Why not try to do it at home? Was it because you could just solely focus on it, in that moment? You had the professionals who were training you. You didn't have to, work, and potentially, I mean, you could win like $250,000 too. So there was that, right? But you could just solely focus on losing the weight, and that was basically what you could focus on, but you didn't have to do it at home, kind of like on your own, like where all these triggers and issues might be. Why was the draw to go on a television show?
It's really hard to get up in front of millions of people in all your glory. I mean, I'll never forget putting on that spandex shorts and that little tube top and having to get up there with everything out and show. It's embarrassing, for one, and I actually had to talk myself into that. I'm like, I can do this, this is hard. But at home, there was, support is a big deal when you are wanting to lose weight. And I had so much going on at home with taking care of 4 kids and taking care of a family. And I also felt like I didn't have any knowledge. Like, of course I was athletic in high school, but I never really was taught about nutrition, about actually how to lift weights and how to do things in the gym. Most of my athletic experience came from playing softball in high school. I was a majorette. I took dance class, but I'd never actually been in a gym before and actually did something in a gym other than when I went on The Biggest Loser. I didn't know what to do. I really had no idea. And that actually probably rings home for a lot of people. If you didn't grow up in that, then you really didn't know. And my mother was very fit when I was growing up. And I remember going to the gym with her, but I never worked out with her. And it was also in the 70s and 80s when jazzercise was all the glory. So group fitness was a big deal. And I love group fitness today. But that was really the only introduction that I had to really having exercise other than playing athletics in high school. And I was in dance class and I twirled baton. We were not in the gym, running cardio and doing core workouts. So I felt like I didn't know how to do that. And I also felt like I grew up in a Southern household. I mean, on Sundays, my grandma made, fried chicken and country style steak and mashed potatoes. And that's what I grew up on as a Southern girl. And I learned how to cook that way as well, with gravy and lots of bacon fat grease. And what you learn is what you continue with, because that's what you know. So I felt like I never knew what was eating right. I really didn't know. When I went on The Biggest Loser, I remember we had a challenge where we had to guess how many calories were in something. I had no idea.
Wow.
No idea. I mean, I went to school, and you think you learn about these things. I didn't know how many calories were actually in some mango, like a bowl of mangoes. And it has a lot of sugar and a lot of calories, but it taught me how to count calories. And I know we can get into diet culture and talk about that as well. It's like, ooh, I hate diet culture, I hate this, I hate that. But it actually taught me how to feed myself and fuel myself and my family.
There was a big education concept, and obviously the trainers were there. You had Jillian Michaels, you had Bob Harper, and you also had a doctor too on staff. And we're going to get kind of into that relationship in the next segment, because that was so important to your health and whatnot. Before we go to break, how did you find out that you made it, that you actually made it onto the show?
So I went and tried out, but then they had casted me for couples and I had no one to go with. So then they called me back again. They said, we're going to do singles. Would you like to try out again? And I'm like, sure. So that's when I did. They already had an on-camera interview, so they already knew me. I refilled out my application, and I was sitting in my driveway. I'd come home from some sporting event, I don't remember, and my daughter come running outside, and Hannah was like maybe 11 at the time. She's like, Mom, there's a girl named Holland on the phone, and she says she's from The Biggest Loser. And I'm like, what? I was like, Hannah, this is really not funny. Like, it kind of like hurt my heart for a minute, because I thought she was playing a joke on me.
Yep. And
I ran inside, and this is when we had home phones, and I answered the phone, and she's like, Tracey, we'd like to bring you out from our interviews. We're doing singles, and I'd like to cast you.
Your daughter came out, someone called you from Hollywood, right? And you got the phone call. Who was on the other end of the phone call?
That wasn't the end phone call, though. That was just the beginning.
Oh.
So then they flew me to California. I did some medical testing. We did more interviews. So we really didn't know. So you're out there with many other people that they've also chosen. And you're in a room. So I did those interviews. I stayed in a hotel. We were sequestered. We didn't meet anybody. I met the producers of the show. Then I flew home, and they said, we'll call you. And then I got an email that said, in a couple of days, you might get a phone call if you're chosen to be on The Biggest Loser. You should prepare for that day to be on, I think it was a Friday. It was the Friday before Mother's Day. And I ended up having a small little venue party with some of my friends, and just thought, if I do get this phone call, this could happen. And sure enough, I did get the phone call, and it was Jillian Michaels on the other end.
Wow. So Jillian calls you, and from that phone call, did you fly out, or you were there? Were you there?
No, I was back in Texas.
You're back in Texas.
36 hours, I left. I left on Mother's Day morning at 3 in the morning on Mother's Day.
3 in the morning.
And I thought, Mother's Day? Like, are you kidding me? Mother's Day is a holiday. Are you really going to fly us to California to start filming a TV show? And yes, that did happen. So within 36 hours, I was on a plane and left. I called my parents, who were in North Carolina. My parents flew to Texas to help take care of my children. And they ended up waiting for the kids to get out of school, and then took them back to North Carolina. And I left, yeah.
Wow. Now, you became a very memorable contestant because of the mile, and that was basically right out of the gate. And you guys had to run a mile to to stay on the show? Just explain this mile.
So the way that the mile is explained in the documentary is a little skewed. So
Okay.
yes, the goal was to cross the finish line and you could stay. But really what the stakes were is if you were last, you were going to go home.
Oh.
So the stakes were really high. But they changed that after my accident so that everyone could stay. So that was really good. And I'm happy that that happened. But they changed the rules like in the middle of the game, I guess, when I was sick. But yeah, we sequestered in a hotel room. We're just kind of waiting. It's days and days of waiting, and it's so weird to think about that now and how sequestered we really were. And the reason why you're sequestered is because they want those connections that you're going to make on the show with other people to actually be on camera, so that you're meeting like people like Danny and Amanda and Rebecca, you know, and people that are on my season. They want those organic conversations to happen when you're on the show, not previously. We don't want to, because we would just sit there and talk to each other in the whole hotel room if we had the chance to.
Wow. So you, in this mile, you collapse. And I mean, it was very dramatic. And I actually remembered seeing like a teaser or something, you know, on NBC. And they teased the heck out of this storyline. I mean, it was like, you know, this woman like almost died, or, you know, oh my gosh, and they're showing video of you and getting hauled away in a helicopter. I remembered that, just seeing it in passing. And you say that you died. Is that right?
Absolutely. The goal was to run a mile, and I really thought that I could run a mile. I really did. I mean, when she said we're gonna run a mile, I'm like, I got this. Like, I'm running around with 4 kids all the time. I mean, I'm doing 3 and 4 sporting events in one day. I can run a mile. I can do this. Even though I probably hadn't ran a mile in maybe 15 years. And I was also severely overweight at the time. So but in my heart and in my head, I could run a mile. So when she said take off, I just went. I just guns a-blazing. All I could think about was, I don't want to be last. I don't want to be last. And I don't know about your mother, but my mother, when I was growing up and playing softball, she never said walk to home base. She's like, run! So I just had my mother in my head, and how competitive she helped groomed me to be, because I'm very competitive, even just with myself and in a game situation. And so I just took off right out the gate. I just started running in the sand, which is not easy. Running on the beach is awfully hard.
Right.
And we have a turn you have to go, and you had to go up a hill, and then we're on the pavement, and then we ended up back on the beach. And I just remember my legs feeling so heavy, and I felt like I had no control over my body, and my body was starting to shut down. I went from heat exhaustion to heat stroke to rhabdomyolysis, and your muscles are just releasing toxic amounts of CPK into your bloodstream, and it's extremely fatal.
And that's when your organs were essentially going to be shutting down.
Yes, that's exactly. I remember feeling hot. Actually, when I say I remember, I don't really remember. It's just what I watched on television.
What do you remember about, I mean, did you like cross over? What, I mean, can you share that?
I don't remember crossing the finish line.
No. I mean, like,
I remember falling in the sand. I remember not being able to move. My limbs, like my arms, my legs, like nothing would move. I felt like I couldn't. It's like you have the fight or flight in your brain, and you know you want to go, but it's not allowing you to.
Yeah.
So I just kept crawling. And then I remember Liz was going, Tracey, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, yes, I'm crawling. Just let me go, please. Just let me go. I'm a very independent person, so I'm like, no, just let me go. I got this. I got this. And then I just couldn't go anymore. And that's really all I remember. I don't remember crossing the finish line. I don't remember being in a helicopter, even though I see it on television and I was in a helicopter. Yeah. But I do remember what was going on when I did see darkness, and I saw light, and my grandpa was there, who's been passed away for years. And he was just sitting there. Like, I'll never forget his image. He was just sitting there smiling at me, not talking. He's just had this big grin on his face. It's like the last time I saw him. And I will never forget that. So I knew just by seeing him that I'm like, I really did die that day, and they brought me back. I've had to like go through some therapy to like process that part of my life, that something like that drastic really did happen. And I felt like I was floating. And it's crazy. The way that I describe it, and I've described it in maybe a couple of, mainly in therapy, honestly, I really haven't talked publicly about it. I felt like I was in like this dome, and that there were bleachers everywhere and no one was in the bleachers, but yet I could hear cheering going on. And it's probably the helicopter that I was listening to, not realizing that's what it was, but it felt like there was all this cheering going on. And then my grandpa was sitting just like arm's reach away, but yet he was so far away. The darkness came first and then the light came. And that's when I felt like I was just floating through. And he was just sitting there. And then I wake up and I'm in the hospital and Dr. Huizinga's at my head and they're trying to strap me down, and it was chaotic. It was bad.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, because I know that is pretty powerful. And I think too, you would probably make people feel at ease a little bit too, kind of just by sharing that information. But yeah, that's pretty incredible. You said you were in the hospital and you didn't want to go home. I mean, this all happened when you were literally on this television show, but you still didn't want to go home. You still wanted to stay there and lose weight and kind of try to maybe get your life together. People didn't really know, obviously no one knew what was going on at home. But you said there was some creative editing. So I think, for us maybe watching at home, we all thought you were gone a couple days, you're in the hospital, and then all of a sudden you come back, but you were in the hospital for almost a month.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a really long time that I was there. I was really, really sick while I was there. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. I couldn't wash my hair. I didn't take a shower for weeks. They would come in and put these like nets on your head to like wash your hair and bathe you. Someone had to bathe me. I've never been bathed before in my life. That's how sick I was. And when you have rhabdomyolysis, your body is not cooling itself down. Dr. Huizinga talks about hypothermia because that's really what happened. My core temperature was reaching 105. So when I tell you in the documentary they were going to cut my legs open, the compartmentalized swelling went to my legs. I have lipedema in my legs. I look like the Michelin Man. Do you know that tire company? I was so swollen all over my body, and I had a constant headache. I had a headache for months after that accident. Like even when I was on The Biggest Loser and making decisions for myself and trying to work out and exercise and do everything, I just had a headache all the time. And it was from that high core temperature. But even when I was in the hospital and I was trying to decide what I was going to do, because I had to make a decision. They were wanting to send me to a rehab facility in California. I wasn't well enough to get on the plane and fly home. So that was what was going to happen to me. They were going to send me to a rehab facility, which is essentially a nursing home for adults until I got better. And I was so angry when I found out about that. That's not what I wanted to do. I did not want to go to a space like that in California and have no support, not with my family. I just didn't feel like it was a good place for me. And then, Dr. Huizinga would come and visit me, and we would try to get a game plan about, okay, you're getting better, you're going to go home, this is what's going to happen because you need this rehab facility. And then something happened while I was in the hospital that really just flipped the switch for me. And I can tell you that if you want to know.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Please do.
They didn't share this in the documentary, but yeah, I can tell you. Before Dr. Huizinga came in my room that day, where I kind of like spilled my guts to him and told him what was going on, because I did tell him, I just didn't tell anybody else when I was on the show. And I swore secrecy to him that he would not tell anyone. And I believed him and I trusted him. But I was laying in the hospital and I had access to a phone. So I had called my parents, and I didn't want my parents to tell my children that I was sick because I didn't want them to worry that their mom was in the hospital. And I called my ex-husband's cell phone to kind of have that final conversation of, all right, I'm going to go to a rehab facility and I'm going to get better and then I'm going to fly home. So I'll probably be home in a couple of weeks. That was my intentional phone call. Yeah. Like, okay, this was going to happen. And no one picked up the phone, and I had the access password to the voicemail. And I listened to the voicemail and I heard messages on the phone of prior messages that I've heard before. And I mean, you know where I'm going with that, right?
Yep,
I don't have
yep.
to spell it out. And I remember just sitting there crying, and I wasn't angry. I was so sad because I felt like I almost died, and I've got so much going on right here in this hospital where I'm so thankful to be alive, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
got to figure out how I'm going to get home. And this is still going on.
Yep.
Of course, it's still going on. It's not going to stop.
Yeah.
And right when I hung up the phone from listening to those messages, Dr. Huizinga walks in the door, and I'm just really struggling. I really am. I'm just crying. I can't stop. I just have all this built up emotion, and he's like, "We need to talk. Like, I'm going to sit down with you." And so he sat on the edge of my bed, and I just spilled it.
Wow. And you guys formed a really strong bond.
Yeah, he really took care of me after I shared that information with you. After I shared it with him, he just kind of looked at me and he's like, "Tracey, what do you want to do?"
Mm.
And I remember just thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm going to go on the show.
Mm.
I don't know how this is going to happen, but this happened and it was awful and it shouldn't have happened. And now I'm here and I'm not going to go home and go back to the same old that I was doing before. I got angry.
Mm-hmm.
He was right when he said, like, she got very angry, because I got very angry to the point where I said, "You go back and you let them know that they better figure this out, that I'm coming on the show.
Mm-hmm.
You guys better take care of me. We're going to do something." I called him the Suits. I'm like, "Go back to the Suits and let them know that I'm coming back to the show, and we're going to figure this out."
Wow.
And that's really the way it went down. And then from that moment on, even Dr. Huizinga, he goes, "You need to separate yourself from everything at home, and you need to focus on you."
Yeah.
So he's like, "We're going to pretend that you are on the ranch right now. You don't have any contact with your family. Let's get rid of that phone in this room."
Wow.
I was like, "Fine." So I made that last phone call to my parents. I'm like, my mom even remembers the phone call today. I'm like, "I'm doing so good. They're going to let me come on the show. I'm feeling so much better. I just took a turn for the best." And I just made, like, my mom feel so good about where I was and how I felt. Really, I was not doing well. And I just didn't want them to worry. And I was like, "Will you just let everybody know if they try to call me that I'm not going to have my phone anymore? Like, it's done. I'm going to the show."
Yeah.
And my mom was like, "Okay, we're going to pray for you. We got you." Hung up the phone. Dr. Huizinga buzzed the nurse to come inside, and they took that phone out of my room. And from that day forward, I just like, "Get me physical therapy, get me this, get me this. I am going to get better. Get me out of this bed."
Wow.
And that's the way it happened.
And so
It really is.
when you were back, I mean, what was crazy too about it is that you essentially were, once you were back, you were like the villain, and you were cast as the villain once you were back, which was like, what? And you didn't even know that until you got home. So like, how did they make you the villain? Because I don't really, I don't remember. But how could they make you the villain when you're just trying to, lose weight?
Yes. When I made it to the show, I didn't have the same every day that everybody else had, where the rest of the contestants would go into the gym and they would work out with Bob and Jillian when they showed up to do workouts. They would show up for like last chance workouts and maybe one other time. But you're talking about a whole week of more than the weigh-ins are not just 7 days. They were 10, 14, they could be 20 days. We never knew when we were actually going to weigh in. And my regimen was different. I was working out with the trainer that was on the show, which was Sandy Crum. He's the athletic trainer. He was the medical professional with his own office. He did all of the taping and icing and everything else when it came to taking care of the contestants on the show. He's the one that actually saved my life that day on the beach.
Wow.
So I also had a connection with him. Dr. Huizinga wrote a regimen for me, and I followed that to the letter, from nutrition to exercise, everything. So when talk about like, how did they portray me this way, I chose to play the game when I was there. I took every advantage that they would have. So if we played a game and there was a chance for me to win, I went guns a-blazing to win every single one. And that's why, the negativity came from the contestants that were on the show with me, because they were really angry with me. They were mad that I, for one, was sick, and then I came back later. And remember, I didn't have these relationships with everyone that they formed for a whole month. I wasn't even there to form this. I was like a new person coming in. And it was hard. You said like, "Oh, Tracey's back, blah, blah, blah." But really, it felt like, shark bait.
Yeah.
I'm going to get eaten alive if I don't really play and try to stay here. So that's what Dr. Huizinga said to me. He's like, I want you to stay, but you're not going to be able to do all of these physical challenges. So whatever they allow you to do as far as the challenges go, do what you can do to stay. And so when he said that, it didn't quite register until maybe after the first time, the first game that was played. And I'm like, I think we had to step over a line or something. And it was so easy. I got like a 2-pound advantage, or either I had to get to choose my trainer or something. I'm like, I'm not working out with them anyway. Why does anybody care? Stepped over the line. Everyone was so mad. And then every time there was a game, I played and I won.
Yeah.
And nothing was rigged. I mean, I actually won. I remember the spinning wheel. They had this big spinning wheel. It was huge. It was so heavy. And there was like food items on the spinning wheel. But on one of the plates, it was a golden ticket. And I spun and I thought to myself, if I get this golden ticket, like that's the big ticket, because that's where you get to put everyone on each other's teams, and you get to pretty much choose kind of your fate is what you get to do. Well, I really didn't feel like I had any fate because everyone was so mad at me all the time. So it didn't matter to me. So I just split everybody up.
Wow.
Yeah. What I really did was I took everyone's percentage of weight loss.
Wow.
Whoever had the highest percentage of weight, I took a piece of paper, I wrote it down, I remembered. Whoever had the highest percentage of weight loss, I split them on my team. Whoever didn't went on the other team. And that's the way I did it.
Yeah. Well, and that, I mean, the way that you played the game, I mean, it essentially kind of got you kicked off eventually. When you did get home, and did you continue to lose weight? Just kind of fill people in. How did that process go for you once you were back?
So when you get home, you know, people watching probably think, oh my gosh, they have a trainer, they have a gym that they can work out in. No, you need to go home and figure it out. That's what you have to do. There was nothing given to us. Like, there wasn't some gym membership that I could magically show up to and then a trainer there that I could work with. Because I was home from August until December, because I weighed in for finale, I think it was like December 7th. So I had August, like the second week of August, all the way through December to lose weight.
Wow.
And I still had a lot of weight to lose. I still had 88 more pounds that I wanted to go. So the first week I was kind of flailing around and trying to figure that out. And then I went to Cooper Fitness. Do you know, I'm sure you know what Cooper is. You're a Dallas girl.
In Dallas, yeah.
I went to Cooper Fitness. I met Dr. Cooper himself, and there was a training room there with a bunch of trainers, and they were like, we have a girl from The Biggest Loser, and who would like to work with her? And they were going to tag team, and I was going to, you know, have a few trainers. And then one girl just spoke up. She was Kristen Johnson. I love her today. She's a dear friend of mine. She was new out of exercise science, getting her degree, and she raised her hand. She's like, I'll take her.
Wow.
And that's how it happened.
And it continued, yeah. And then
it just continued, and I just had it was hard. It was really hard. I was doing like 3 a day, some 4 days, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. And you had 4 children too.
Yeah, I would get up before they would even wake up for school or anything, and I would already get almost 2.5 hours of exercise in before they even woke up.
Wow.
I would get them ready for school, and then I would go back again. I had Katie. My Katie was only 2 years old at the time. They had a little daycare at the gym. I put her on my hip, and we were gone. There were many times I was running outside with a stroller, just trying to keep it together.
Yeah. I know that, you know, you've since gotten remarried and you're not living in Texas anymore. And obviously this docuseries is, as I said, it was so great. So many people have watched it. So many people in our newsroom have watched it. What is your reaction to the docuseries now that it is out?
I'm so happy that I did the docuseries. I really struggled to say yes. They messaged me and I said no, and then they messaged me again and I still said no. So I struggled to get in that headspace that, could I go back on television again? What is the narrative going to be? How are they going to edit this? Because I had already been burned really bad before. Yeah. I didn't, you know, when you asked that question before, you know, portraying me as the villain, I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. I just played to stay. But I could see how easy it was for them to do that at the same time. So I don't blame them. It's a television show, let's be honest. Right. It just happens to be about weight loss. And you don't go on a weight loss show saying, I'm going to play the game to stay. And everyone was so mad. It just made for good TV. So I'm not blaming anybody for how they portrayed me. It was really hard at the time. But I also felt like I needed some control over the edit moving forward. And I didn't want to be in that space again. So I kept saying no. But I did say yes. Made a phone call. I called Danny Cahill, who was a dear friend of mine. He won my season, and they had also been trying to get a hold of him. And I'm like, well, Danny, if you're not going to do it, I'm not going to do it because you're my friend and you know me, and I feel like we should do this together. And he's like, who's better to tell that story than you, Tracey? Let's do it. So that's how it came about. It really was. I don't think I would have done it without Danny, and I'm really glad that I have that friend in him and I can have that conversation. And we just went for it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I feel like they really took space for what I really need to talk about and get out, because I'd never talked publicly about how the edit happened and how America was really mad at me. And I never spoke publicly about the struggles I was having at home. And I changed my life. And I love that part. I love that part. You know, I'm not sad that I was a contestant on The Biggest Loser at all. I think that everyone, when they watch the documentary, they're like, oh, it's such a scandalous show. It's this, it's that. It's not. I wanted to be on the show. I hate what happened to me that day. But at the same time, if I'm kind of a hard-headed girl, sometimes it takes something traumatic in your life to make you wake up. I don't recommend that. It's not the way to go. But for me, that accident that happened on the beach that day changed the trajectory of my entire life. It made me appreciate life so much more. It gave me a purpose and value for myself. So instead of me always living for someone else, like living for my kids, living for my parents, living for my family, I always talk about this circle that I was in. Although everyone was in the circle and I was taking care of them, I was on the outside looking in.
You know, people are saying, oh, it's so scandalous, and people are complaining about it. Some of the contestants are throwing the show under the bus, and I think what you said is really fascinating. We're really running out of time. Where can people find you? Because I know you've run marathons, you're also a motivational speaker. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me on social media. I have a TikTok account, Tracey Biggest Loser. I also have a Facebook page. In my Facebook page, I have two. One's under Tracey Lane, and I have a public account that's Tracey Yukich. So I'm still trying to work this name thing, because I was on television as Tracey Yukich, and that's my TV name from being on The Biggest Loser. But I am married now, and I did change my name. My name is Tracey Lane. And I'm hoping to go back on a speaking tour. I've actually been called a couple of times to do that. So I used to have a website, and I kind of let that go after The Biggest Loser thing kind of died down, but that actually should be up and running by Friday of this week. So I hope it will be. You can find me there. You can find me under Tracey Yukich.
Awesome. Tracey, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing some really personal details with us, with the audience. I learned a lot. I know that others did as well. I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching here this episode of The Curious Bee. We have many more episodes up right now on Fox Local.